How to use the NLP Meta Model into your communication so that your life and the life of the people you aim at helping will drastically change by tomorrow, or at least in the near future. You may know about this phrase, the map is not the territory. It is kind of a classic of all those NLP trainings out there. Basically, it is about the conceptualization, the concept that what you think is not always what other people think. Big news, and that the presupposition you have for how their mind works and what they perceive of the world is just not always the same thing as what you perceive of the world and how you see the world yourself. One great quote about that is, our eyes only see and our ears only hear what our brain is looking for. Coming back to the Pygmalion effect, you only see what you expect. The reason I called that, how to improve your life is because the Meta Model is one of the best tools I have used in my own life too. Not only with people I helped in therapy or coaching, but really literally into my own life, because I was writing down a problem I had and then using those questions you are going to learn in this video to elaborate what is it that I am missing, what is it that I am not seeing or not hearing or not looking at. One thing I read recently that you can find pretty useful is that whenever you want something to change in your life, you need to keep moving. Whenever you want your environment to change or the people around you to change their behavior, whatever is your goal right now in life, your main goals, you need to keep being in movement. Every inaction is action somehow. Like we cannot not communicate, every lack of action is action in itself. But the point is, when you don't really know which action you're supposed to take, it may be tricky to figure out what am I supposed to do next with that person, with this relationship, with this career, with this thing at my job, with that person, whatever. You may be confused about that. And movement is what creates the right ideas and the right breakthroughs for what is the next phase for me, what is the next step, or whenever I'm stuck on a problem, a goal that is not moving forward, or a skill I would like to acquire and it is really just stuck, I don't really know what to do next. You can elaborate on what is the next step by using the Meta Model, and the more you do that with you, the easier it will be to do it with anybody else spontaneously as you communicate. Many people, basically, specifically when you are using that in coaching, in therapy, many people try to find an easy way, which to some extent is not a bad strategy to try to find a shortcut. But the problem is that every shortcut will still need a base of effort, either physical effort or mental, psychological effort, because maybe you will have to endure a tough situation for a long period of time at your job, for example, before you can move to the next job, something like that. Or in a relationship, you may need a certain period of time to endure something with somebody you don't love anymore before you can move on to something else. And people who did not try everything by themselves yet are usually not open to change. People who get to the point of changing their whole life by themselves without even a coach or anything, they do so because their back is against the wall. They have basically tried everything they knew of, everything they had at their disposal as apparent solutions, and nothing worked. That is where their mind starts being much more open, because they have exhausted all the choices that they thought could be useful. That's why by now they come to therapy or coaching, they ask for help, and finally their mind is open enough for them to receive the right information and follow it, which in the beginning maybe they were blind to, because they were blocking that option either because of beliefs about themselves, I'm not good enough, I won't succeed, or beliefs about this vehicle they thought would never work. And one question I am receiving many times from a lot of you guys is, how can I make the change more unconscious in people I talk to, in people I work with or communicate with? How can I make the change more unconscious coming from them instead of trying to force it, impose it on them? And that is the whole point. People seldom, if ever, change if their back is not against a wall and if they haven't exhausted all the choices they thought could be useful for them. However, The whole point of the Meta model is that you can get to the same thing, the exact same thing, without all the pain and all the things your clients will have had to endure to get to this point where their mind is more open. You can use the Meta model and achieve that result within 30 minutes of a session with somebody if you work with them to help them for a problem they want to solve. So the Meta model can be a really broad and complex and confusing thing because they were trying back then to figure out how transformational language works, but you can use it in a very simple way. I have summarized it to those 4 steps, which is more complicated, but for the sake of this video, we will say that this is the only things you need to remember and to use. So first question, how do you know that? Next, what prevents you from changing this right now? Next, what would happen if you could? And then how specifically can you do that? It is a sequence. If you ask those questions in this sequence and between each of them you let the person explain the reasons why it won't work, why you are full of shit, why they don't believe you, why they don't trust you, why the thing they did before was the only option they had, now they are fucked up, nothing else can work. If you don't let them explain all those things, then it is not useful to go to the next question or the next step. You need to let them explain first all the things to unveil all the layers of the bag of shit that they have put above each other through the years to protect their ego, to protect their wounds, whatever their mind has been trying to do. You need to let them unveil all of that before you can get to the last step, which is, okay, now we know what the goal is, we know what the outcome is for you. Now, what are the concrete steps to go there? So let's use that on some limitations you will encounter or you have encountered before, both in yourself eventually and in the people you work with, if you are doing therapy or coaching with others, if you want to help others in general. Things like, I'm stuck. Okay, let's start with this one. I am stuck. Now, how can we use all of that? I'm stuck. How do you know that? First of all, you want to clarify. How do they know they are stuck? You are stuck in your life, you are stuck in your job. How do you know that? What is your evidence? What is the piece of evidence? If you had to explain that to an alien, what would be the main thing you explain to teach people how and why you are stuck? What is the composition of that verb, stuck, or that adverb? Stuck how? Stuck with whom? Stuck about what? Stuck, when did it start? When did you become stuck? All those questions will help to dig down and clarify what the person feels inside. But the main thing with this one, because I see so many beginners in NLP using it in the bad way, in the wrong way, it is not really about trying to fish for facts and physical evidence. It is more about fishing for feelings and internal states, because in the end their representation of the world is the reason they are stuck or their life is not moving forward. Their internal representation and how they feel about their life and about who they are and about the world around them, that is the real reason why they are so-called stuck. It is not because the government is shitty or because the social media or because feminists or whatever. Those things are just excuses. The real reason is how you feel inside, and the faster you can get your client to a specific negative feeling he holds about himself, about his life, about others around him, the faster you can get him to accept, to acknowledge that not that all the problems come from that, but that at least there is a very negative feeling, like fear. I'm so scared of that. I can't stand those people. I can't do that because it would be such a bad thing to do. So a judgment, another big one, a self-negative judgment. You want to get them to this phase with the how do you know that. Next, what prevents you from changing this right now? So once, this one, it may be too early if you ask that right off the bat, but once you get at some highly hyper negative feelings, so I feel so angry at those people, what stops you from healing yourself? What prevents you from feeling at peace with what happened? What stops you from leaving those memories behind? And they will most likely come down to a model operator. I can't. Impossible. I could never do that. Which is when you can use this one, which is also about model operators. What would happen if you could? So it could ease the model operator to open the possibilities here, because mostly they will tell you it's impossible for me, like the one I said before, I'm not as good as I was before, I'm not as good as somebody else, I am not as good as what society asks of me, so if I am 40 years old and I don't have the Rolex and the Lamborghini or whatever, then I'm a piece of shit, which is what society tells you you should be by 40 years old. Okay, so what would happen if you could detach yourself from what society asks from you? What would happen if you could, for example, if I take my life is too complicated, what would happen if you could simplify your life? Nobody can understand me, nobody can help me, nobody can understand me. What would happen if at least one person could understand you? What would you tell them? If we go back slightly to what prevents you from changing this right now, so nobody can help me. What stops you from finding one person who can? What prevents you from doing the right step, taking the right step to reach out to the person who could actually help you? I don't know how. Coming back to I don't know how to find such a person. Okay, same thing. What would happen if you could? Step 3, what would happen if you could find one person? What would be the easiest way? What would happen if you could by tomorrow have somebody you can talk to about those issues, those problems? And then whenever they will start to at least mention an option, it is not about, oh, they have solved everything, but at least they start considering the possibility that, okay, there is a way out, which is a massive quantum leap when you get somebody who arrived in a state of, it's impossible, I'm stuck, nothing will ever work, to there could be a way out. There could be a solution. There could be a way I could get myself out of this. It may still be confusing. I may still not believe I can do that, but at least I consider the possibility there is a way out that will get me out of this negative situation. From there, once they start elaborating on at least the beginning of the possibility there could be a choice, eventually, which is a pretty big one when you get somebody who is really stuck-minded, nothing will ever work, getting them to believe that at least there is something they could act upon, then you dig into the how. How specifically, and this is one is geared toward the future, so how specifically will you? Because now you want to build the strong representation in their mind for what they will do once they get out of this conversation the next day, because most people procrastinate, and one big reason for procrastination is the lack of clarity about what is the very next step, and from all the things at my disposal, what is the one I really need to focus on, and how many others can I delete from my thinking. And you can use that by mixing them together. You can always go back to the first one, to the second one, whatever. It is, in any case, in a conversation, it will be chaotic. I outline those in this sequence of 1 to 4 because from my experience, it is pretty often how it happens. You get how do you know that, and you get them to a feeling, a negative experience they had in their past. Then you ask them what prevents you from changing your bad state or your memories or whatever right now. They will tell you, I can't because, okay, now we are getting on the real tough, strong, held limiting belief. Now, what would happen if you could change that by tomorrow or even by today? And when at this point, they may start to go back to, yeah, but it's not possible either because there is this other thing. Whenever they say not possible either because, whenever they get another reason, another thing they didn't talk about so far, you just get back at the beginning of the process. Okay, how do you know this is really something you can't change? What is your evidence for it is not within your control? What is your evidence for that? Coming down again to something they don't feel capable of doing. Maybe coming back to an identity belief. I am not good enough. Or I don't deserve that. All those, guilt feelings. Whenever you can get them to this, okay, what would happen if you could deserve that by now? What would happen if you were done with judging yourself? What would happen then? And from there, how specifically? Whenever they elaborate, oh, if I could stop judging myself, then maybe I could just start this job. And in the end, okay, you could just start this job. How specifically? Who do you have to contact? What steps do you need to take? What is the first form or application you need to write into, to send? How will you do that? The more clear you get that into their head, the more easily they will take action. Whereas if it is confusing, like, oh, you should believe in yourself. And now I just let you go with this. Believe in yourself. Yeah, but first of all, you don't know how, you don't know what stops you from believing in yourself already. And even if you do believe in yourself, you don't really know what to do next by then. So clarifying with the client or with yourself what will be the concrete steps afterward, once the limitation has been removed, evaporated, vanished, once the limitation is removed, then you can go to concrete steps. But many people who look into personal development courses about anything, finances, dating, whatever, they try to get onto the steps first before solving the big issue they have that is holding them back, which is a recipe for procrastination again and frustration, because you may get some results, but it won't be satisfying for you, or you will get down again and you will stop later because the inner thing hasn't been solved properly. So when you use those steps, you can really help yourself in your own life and people you work with or people you just want to give some advice to move forward, to stay into action and not into passive understanding, passive learning, but get into action, and from there the world is yours, like said Scarface in the movie. The world is yours. Anyway, you can download this document, Sleight of Mouth, 7 Steps to Master Sleight of Mouth, in the description. It will drastically help you whenever you have a problem you are working on, something you want to solve in yourself or into others in turn. Also a document called The 3 Fundamentals of NLP, if you want to check that, to have all the clarification about what are the tools of NLP, how can you use them in your own life. And then I will see you in the next video pretty soon.